doing? We good? Everybody take a deep breath in between moving from Tiffany to here. I don't know if I can necessarily entertain you as much as Tiffany does. She's very witty, but I will try. I am Leslie Blows. I work, and most of you have already heard this spiel, I work for the Consolidated Finance and Applications team at the Office of Federal and State Accountability. My specialty area is parent and family engagement tied to Title I. So you may have already met me at some point, but I'm just going to go through the new guidance with you all. There's a lot of things that really stuck out to me as a person that's supposed to be the expert on Title I parent engagement that was like, okay, cool. I popped into Jules' office a couple times. I was like, hey, fun fact. Did you know that this is supposed to be happening? So we're going to talk through all of that together today. And just, have a little bit of fun. Is everybody warm enough in here? I can't do anything about it, so you got to cut that. All right, let's go. All right, so we're going to go straight through the way that the guidance is laid out. So I'm going to give you some general information, probably things you already know. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about what the SEA responsibilities are. I'm going to talk to you about LEA responsibilities, and then we'll get down into the school responsibilities, and we'll talk about how the LEA and school can build capacity together. And then we're going to talk about some documentation and just talk about a little bit of self-assessment or data, all that fun stuff that Tiffany talked about. All right, so in the document that are in HUVA, my presentation's there, and the new guidance is linked there for you. All right, so I went ahead and pulled out a couple words for you. They define parent and family engagement, and so we want to make sure that we're doing regular two-way communication, not just two-way communication, but meaningful communication. That it needs to involve that's around the student's academic learning, which I kind of gave you a plug about that yesterday. And other school activities, we need to ensure that parents are playing an integral role in assisting their child's learning. If you saw me yesterday, I talked a little bit about that. We'll get into that some more. That they're encouraged to be actively involved in their child's education at school. And we'll talk about that as part of the compact and your policies that you put in place. That parents are full partners in the child's education, and that they're included as appropriate in decision-making and the education of their child. And then, we got to carry out some activities, right? All right. So one of the things that changed from the guidance, or that the guidance clarified for us, was what is a parent? What's parent and family? And so they broadened the definition for us to include parents, legal guardians, grandparents, step-parents, and basically those that are legally responsible for the child's welfare. So it's a more encompassing definition of who we're talking about when we're addressing parents and family. All right, so why is this important? So, of course, there's research out there that shows that when schools, families, and communities work together to support learning, that the children tend to earn higher test grades. They attend school regularly, and they pass their classes to be promoted and to graduate to go on to post-secondary education. So it's not just a requirement, but there's research out there that's showing that when you have strong parent and family engagement ties with the school, that great things are happening for the students. All right, so there's a couple things that we have to provide to parents. First, and if you were in one of my sessions yesterday, I talked about this a little bit. So if we have parents that are parents with limited English proficiency, in the past, we've talked about how you need to send home things in multiple languages, that it needs to be, that we need to make sure it goes to them in their home language. And there wasn't a lot of enforcement behind that. And let's be honest, you may have been like, okay, I got Spanish sent. Check. Because that's like what may be the bulk of the second language that you have in your district. Spanish. So you're like, okay, I met that, no problem. However, it's changed. So, and Tiffany had this up on her slides as well. So we need to be sending home a written translation of any printed information to parents with limited English proficiency in a language they understand whenever practicable. And so what they followed that up with was, well, if I can't get written communication to them, then it is practical for me to provide that information orally in a language they understand. So no longer is it like this choice. You've got to figure out how to make sure that our parents that are limited English proficient understand what's coming home. Questions, comments?
So it's required for Title I, but we can't use Title I funds to do it. Or we can. I'm thinking of those translation earbuds. Because that would encourage parent engagement.
Yeah, sure. Maybe send it to me in an email, and I gotta dig a little bit. Yeah. Because I had that conversation yesterday about that I can provide translators at Title I events. I can't provide translators at required things. Like they are required to be translators are required to be at IEP meetings, right? But for like your family events and things like that, I can use some Title I funds to pay for translators. So maybe let me dig a little bit. All right. Any other questions? Yep. No, you're good.
Translation earbuds, are you talking about using those at family during family nights and things like that when other families are there and you don't know what language they would read at that moment? Okay. And then so that's a great question. And then the next thing is our communication that goes home from our district, the parent can choose the language. So does that's okay, we're covered.
As long as it's covering the languages that you have in your district, absolutely. Yeah, and so in the session that CR and I did yesterday, she talked about, I think it was Bright Arrow that like translates for you. It's tied to Power Schools. So I know that there's things that have come out since I was in the education world, like in the schools, that really help with and have progressed past just Google translating something. So yes, that's a way. And I'm leaning towards a yes on the earbuds.
So I know in the past it used to be like if you're from an OCR standpoint, if you're covering your top 5 languages, this kind of reads more like you're covering all of the languages that are in your school.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Everybody's like, yes. Great. Okay. Same thing with parents with disabilities. So all necessary steps must be taken to ensure that communication is as effective as communication with other parents. So this is not parents of students with disabilities. This is parents that have disabilities themselves. So I have a parent that is deaf or blind or of some other disability. So I've got to make sure that necessary steps are taken to ensure that the communication I'm sending is as effective as what I'm sending home to other parents. And fun fact, you must furnish appropriate auxiliary aids, services when necessary to afford a parent with a disability an equal opportunity to participate and enjoy Title I program services and activities. This was kind of one of those ones I was like, blink, blink, what? And maybe y'all are like, awesome, you're already doing this. I would imagine that a lot of our parents are already equipped to be able to do that for themselves. But just know that this needs to be something that you probably have placed in your policy just to cover yourself. Okay, these are just resources that you can visit. There's one that's, and I didn't even put it up here. There's one that's in the document that's like non-existent anymore. So, but these are just some resources for some different tools, kits for you guys. And I'll tell you this, I'll go ahead and give you the plug, and Tiffany said this as well. At the end of the document, there are so many awesome resources. There's examples of different policies and school compacts and and all kinds of different resources for you to use there. Okay, so let's talk about what responsibilities we have at the State Department. So first and foremost, we review your plans. So that's our responsibility number one. Also, outside of my office, we're required to send out those school report cards that you guys just love and probably anxiously anticipate every year. So we have to make sure that they are widely accessible, that they're on a single web page on our site, that they need to be understandable, uniform, local languages, the same expectations that you guys have as well. And then, just as excited as you get about those school report cards, getting that individual student academic report on your state standards or the assessments that we use here in South Carolina. They've got to be interpretive, descriptive, diagnostic, regarding the state standards. They need to be understandable, again, uniform, again, and in multiple languages. So let's dive deep into what you guys are, well, what some of you guys are responsible about. Because I would imagine we have, let's go ahead and do this. Who's from the district level in here? All right, what about some school level people? Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go through both of those responsibilities. Although the school responsibilities also fall on the shoulders of who? The district. That's right. Just like your responsibilities fall on the shoulders of me. All right, so first and foremost, this is nothing new. We got to do a parent and family engagement policy. It's got to be a written policy. It's got to have your expectations for meaningful and parent and family engagement. It's got to be developed jointly with your parents and also agreed upon with your parents and family members from Title I schools. So when you're meeting to develop your district policy, it's probably best practices to pull in who? All your stakeholders. What does that look like? What stakeholders are we thinking about?
Community members.
Community members. What kind of parents are we trying to pull in? Different schools. It would be best if you pulled a wide variety of your Title I schools as well as your non-Title I schools. And then you can use a district level policy that you already have in place that meets all your schools, as long as it meets those expectations for ESSA. So this is what's going to be inside of that policy. So I've got to provide coordination, technical assistance, and other support necessary to assist and build capacity. That's got to go around planning and implementing effective parent and family involvement activities. And of course, it's always got to be tied to student academic success. So we're always tying everything that we do with parent and family engagement to academic achievement. Also, we will conduct with parents and family members an annual evaluation about the effectiveness of our parent and family engagement policies. So not only are we revisiting the policy every year, but we're doing an evaluation of the policy. So we need to make sure that we're identifying barriers to greater participation by parents, especially those that are economically disadvantaged, disabled, have limited English proficiency, have limited literacy, and are any racial or ethnic minority background. We need to be looking at the needs of the parents and family members to assist with the learning of their children. And that includes engaging with school personnel and teachers and looking at strategies to support successful school and family interactions. And then we need to use the findings of the evaluation to design an evidence-based strategies for more effective parent and family engagement. Fun fact. All right, so I mentioned this yesterday. So it is literally scripted out for us that you can only receive Title I funds if you conduct outreach to all parents and family members and implement programs, activities, and procedures for involvement of parents and family members in your Title I programs. They must be planned and implemented with meaningful consultation with parents and family members of Title I programs. Now, like, I'm not going to be the Title I policeman that come around and make sure that that's happening, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, this has got to be something that's like in the forefront of what we're doing when we're thinking about planning for all of our families. And then, fun fact, you are required as an LEA to turn in your parent and family engagement policy at the LEA level to the State Department. It has to come to the SEA. So for my federal program coordinators in here, you can expect in your Title I plan this year to see a little related document upload for your district level parent and family engagement policy. In addition to seeing that, you know, when I put my policy out there, I've got to open it up for comments. So any comments that disagree with your policy also need to be sent in with that policy. That's a requirement under ESSA. Just those that disagree. I mean, if you want to send me the happy ones too, I'll read them. I'm like, okay, good job, girl. All right, questions about that? Everybody with me? Okay, great. All right, so let's talk a bit about parents. District policy. Yeah, so your school level policy, your district's going to make sure that you have that. That's going to be your federal programs coordinator checking off that you have that. And of course, like, you'll keep it for documentation for when your district gets monitored. Any other questions? Cool. All right, so parents' right to know is the fact that I need to let parents know that they can seek information about the teachers that are working with their child. They have the right to know what their state qualifications are. They have the right to know what their license is for, what area it's for. They have the right to know if they're serving under emergency provisional status through the state or qualifications. And they have the right to know I think they can even ask how many years the teacher's been teaching that grade level, like how long they've been in that section. Now, I do have districts in here that do an awesome job of making sure that they have a form letter for when a parent seeks this out. So it just literally provides the information that is required of them. Because, I mean, you don't have to give them everything. So one of the ways that we encourage for you to address this is to go ahead and at the beginning of the year have teachers kind of include this in their back to school letters. That way it's already covered for you. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to have parents that follow up at some point? You probably will, especially in today's world. And knowing that things are just different in education right now. You all know that. Also, they have the right to know about their paraprofessionals as well. Now, in a Title I school, our paraprofessionals have to what? Cool. Our paraprofessionals have to meet certain requirements, right? They have to have passed. Yeah, they have to have passed it's not workies, it's yes, pro, thank you. Or they have to have a degree, or there's certain things that have to take place. So that's with your paraprofessionals in your Title I schools. And so the question that I've received is, that's only Title I schools? Yeah, that's the requirement for Title I schools. However, I have a lot of districts that require it for all their paraprofessionals. Questions about that? All right, I'm not going to get into a lot about MO learners because that is Susan and Ingrid's specialty area, and I'm sure that they're doing amazing things to share that information with you. And to check it for y'all, I'm sure they're like all up in it. But if I have an ML learner, I have to notify the parent within 30 days if they're going to receive services. I need to let them know, and it needs to be, of course, in what? A language that they understand, right? I can let them know in English. Be like, I don't know. Okay. And then I also need to let them know that there's like what the exit criteria is for their student. I need to let them know that they can opt out of the services. Those are all the expectations there. And that still applies for their students if the child also has a disability. Like they need to be informed of both of those situations and how the whatever services you're going to provide the ML student are going to fit into their IEP. And at the bottom, I just talk about the fact that it's the same situation. It's got to be in a language they can understand. Okay, this was another little blank moment for me. So let's talk about equitable services and private schools. There's a couple things that I want to highlight for you. The first thing is that like private school parents, they have the right to participate in parent and family engagement activities. If you are a federal programs coordinator on your equitable services page, your allocation to your private schools literally breaks out your parent and family engagement portion that you should see, I should see in your plan being spent on parent and family engagement. Now, it's not going to be like a huge amount, right? It's probably just going to be like a little small chunk. But they're required to put aside 1% of their money, no matter what it is, what their total is, towards parent and family engagement. So therefore, we're going to be looking for in your activities in Title I, where you've listed out separately the parent and family engagement that they are planning to do. You have to have meaningful consultation with those schools about their intent to spend that 1%. Questions about that? I have districts that are doing an amazing job at it, like Aiken, like always make sure that they have that. Yep. Anything? You're drinking. I thought you had a hand up. Okay. Everybody's cool with that? Everybody's like, great. Okay. All right. So let's talk about funding levels. This stays the same. So you are required to put aside 1% of your parent and family, no, 1% of your total Title I allocation towards parent and family engagement if you receive over $500,000, which a lot of us do, which most of us do. So 1% of your total allocation has to go towards parent and family engagement. Out of that 1%, 90% of that needs to be pushed out to the schools. Now you might say to me, and this is stuff I see, Leslie, if I push all that 90% out to the schools, then there's no way that we could sufficiently fund parent liaisons at every Title I school. We just want to push it out. There's just not enough money for that school to cover salaries. We want to do a district set aside for that. We're okay with that. However, if you are putting aside the bulk of your Title I parent and family engagement set aside at the district level, you need to have written consent from all those Title I schools stating that they are on board with that. Because that's money that they're not getting, right? So moving forward, if you're spending your money at the district level for something that's going to push out into the schools, that's the only way we can see it. It literally has to be pushed out to the schools. So, like, I'm funding liaisons that are working in the schools, but they're working at multiple schools. Then we need to see that you have consulted with all your Title I schools, and everybody's on board. They understand that they're not going to receive this chunk of money because it's going to be staying at the district. Cool? Cool. Okay. However, what we love to see that you're pushing 90% out to your schools. I have some districts that set aside more than the 10% at the district level. If that's the case, remember, anytime that we're saving money at the district level, that's money that's not going out to the schools. So there needs to be a clean tie to a need in the district as to why I'm spending more than that 10% at the district level. Can the district push out all their Title I 1%? Yeah, they can push it all out to the schools. Questions about that? Okay, cool. All right. What if I receive less than 500,000? Sorry, guys. Well, I don't have to put aside 1%. However, I still have to meet the expectations of ESSA. So, probably would help if I had some money set aside to do that. So, what are your requirements according to ESSA? So they gotta be, my activities and strategies have to be consistent with that policy that I created with my parents and my stakeholders. I've got to ensure that the activities and strategies include at least one of these. It needs to support parent and family engagement, professional development for LEAs in schools, or support programs that reach parents at home, in the community, and in schools, or it's about disseminating information on best practices focused on parent and family engagement, or it's about collaborating or providing allocations to schools to collaborate with community-based organizations that have a record of success of increasing parent and family engagement. So those are the things that we're looking for with your activities that you have put at the LEA level. Questions about LEA responsibilities before we jump into some school responsibilities? Who's hungry? It's baked potato and salad today. Woo! Okay. All right, so let's talk about some school responsibilities as well. So just like your LEAs, you are also required to have a parent and family engagement policy. One of the questions I had in Google was talking about stakeholders. So let's talk about who our stakeholders are. Shout them out to me. Parents, teachers, community members. What about other staff? Yeah, other staff. What about students? Especially at the high school level, can I do it at the other levels? Yeah. So I need to make sure that I'm having that meaningful consultation with all those stakeholders. It's got to be, my policy has to be written with those people. And then what I'm focusing on is, how the district level parent and family engagement policy applies to all parent. I already talked about how it's developed jointly. It needs to talk about how it applies to all parents. It must describe how the school is going to carry out the requirements of ESSA. How am I going to meet those? And it needs to also include that development of your school and parent compact. Can I use last year's policy? Sure. I got to review it, right? I've got to sit down with my stakeholders and see if all those things still apply, or if something's changed, or the needs of my students and families have changed that may need to change my policy. So yeah, I can look at last year's policy to guide how I'm using what we're going to do for this year. But I need to constantly think about the needs of my families when we're writing it. And Tiffany talked about this too, about updating it periodically, because the needs change throughout. So we're not just looking at it annually, we're going to visit throughout the year as well to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our families. And back to the same thing that we've already talked about, we've got to notify the parents of the policy. It's got to be in an understandable and uniform format to them. And we also need to have this available to local communities. So what's the best way to do that? Online, thank you. Woo! Everybody awake? Great. All right, so you get to have this lovely annual meeting where you talk with parents about Title I. What is Title I? How did we get Title I? How should we spend Title I? What are our priorities? So I need to make sure that this meeting is held annually. I need to make sure that this meeting is held at a time that's convenient for parents. So maybe, away from Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock when everybody's supposed to be at church. Not supposed to. When everybody's at church or could be at church or going to a Lent service or something. Or maybe they have football on Wednesdays. So I need to be thinking about what my community's got going on certain nights. If I'm doing it on a night, can I provide it a different time? Absolutely. Can I have this annual meeting twice? Can I have it 3 times? Yes. I can hold this annual meeting more than once so that I'm trying to get the bulk of my parents. Can I do it virtually? Sure can. What do I have to document it? An agenda, minutes, invitations, sign-in sheet. How do I do a sign-in sheet for a virtual meeting? I might download the attendance or the chat. Can I do a hybrid meeting? Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the best things we learned from COVID, right? Is that I've got a parent that's sitting in the car at a dance studio. They can totally tap into a meeting on their phone. In that meeting, I've got to explain to them our Title I requirements and the rights that they have. It needs to be information on the school curriculum, on the academic assessments that the school will use, as well as any information on achievement levels of the state academic standards. We need to talk about where your school is with that whole great state report card that everybody loves. I got a question.
Can you send out like a survey price tag to see what's best for them?
Totally send out a survey. That is best practices. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we should really be polling our parents about everything. So let's talk about parent events. I should be polling my parents about the best time for them to be able to come to parent events. I should be asking parents at the beginning of the year, what's the best way for you to contact them? Because I've got to send stuff home to them in not only a language that they understand, but in a way that they can receive it. Not everybody has email. So I need to ask them what's the best way for me to communicate with them. Is it something in their child's folder? Is it a text message? Is it a phone call? Like, what's the best way? I should be evaluating my parent-family engagement thing. So there should be some kind of exit survey or feedback forms that you send to your parents asking me, what they gathered from the event that you held. Because we are constantly revitalizing what we're doing, not from year to year, but from event to event. Like Tiffany said, if I'm holding an event and nobody's coming, I've got to figure out why nobody's coming to that event. Cool? All right. So the school and parent compact. This is a written agreement that takes place between the school and the parents. And it's got to include the school's responsibility to provide that high quality curriculum and instruction. It's got to lay out the parents' responsibilities to support their child's learning. So how can they volunteer? What does volunteering look like? How can they participate in the decisions that are related to the education of their child? What does that look like? And then even like positive use of extracurricular time. What are best practices of what you can be doing to extend what's happening at school to home? Also, we got to talk about the communication between teachers and parents. So you should be holding in a Title I school a parent-teacher conference at least once a year. You've got to go over those academic standards with them at that conference. And I talked about best practices yesterday about the fact that I always have my students lead those, because when the students invested, like the parents get invested. And that was first grade. I've got, you've got to talk about frequent reports on their child's progress, how that's going to be sent home. What is the reasonable access to staff and volunteer opportunities? So are there, how can they get in touch with their child's teacher? When can they come in and volunteer? Is the school an open door policy at all times? And then how that two-way meaningful communication will take place. All of that needs to be laid out in your school and parent compact. And you have to do what with these? Send them, what? They gotta be signed, you gotta collect them, have some evidence, right? All right, questions about school level things. Do you want to jump in a little bit more about family events? Everyone here? Awesome, let's just get going. Lunch is soon. All right, so building capacity. So if your school is receiving Title I Part A, you've got to make sure that effective involvement of parents and support is supporting a partnership among the school, the parents, and the community to improve the students' academic achievement. And that's going to take place through training, information, and the coordination of activities. So, what are some things that I can provide to them? I can help parents understand topics that will help them become equal partners about state standards, about state and local academic assessments, about our parent and family engagement requirements, how to monitor their child's progress, how to work with educators to improve the achievement of the child. And that includes like literacy training, using technology. So like I know a lot of us use those parent academies. So we need to be doing things that are going to help the parents take what learning is happening in your classroom home. In Lesson 1, they do some awesome things where they pull parents into the classroom so they can see the learning that's taking place, so they can participate in the learning that's taking place. They have videos that they post of learning that's taking place so it can continue to the house. They send home unit kits for their families to participate in. One of the things I talked about yesterday is that I didn't send home paper homework in first grade because there's all these stigmas that come in place, especially around math. It's that new math. I don't understand that math. I don't know why they're teaching it to you that way. That's not the way I did it. And so instead, I went to building fluency with games. I sent home games for them to play. And there were games that were happening in the classroom that the students were really excited about to take home and play with their families. I pulled families in for family nights, and we played the games so that they knew why we were doing it, what it was doing for their student, and how to do it. Questions about this? What's everybody want their baked potato? Okay. These are some resources that are in place for you guys. The first one is the South Carolina Parent and Family School Requirements. It's broken down to you. There's some examples that are linked throughout it. And then this is the non-regulatory guidance. There's examples in the back of it. If you ever have questions in regards to parent and family engagement, I'm your girl. Give me a call, send me an email. We can talk through all kinds of things. Here's my last plug. If you have something amazing going on in your district that you think that needs to be shared with everyone, let me know. I want to come out and see it. The reason I know what's going on in Lexington 1 is because I've worked at Lexington 1. So send me messages. Let me know what's going on in your districts. Also, we have 2 opportunities for you to participate in some roundtables. The first roundtable is for our district level parent and family engagement people. So that could be your federal programs people or your district liaison for parent and family engagement. And then we also have a school level parent and family engagement roundtable. Both of those will take place in April. If you are not on the list, if you've never attended a roundtable, you don't know what I'm talking about. Send me an email with your information on it so that we can get you added to the listserv. So those 2 will take place towards the end of April. Don't ask me for the dates right now. If you want them, come see me at some point. But the first one, they're going to really talk about the school level one. We're going to talk about math. and ways to support our families with math. And then at the district level one, we're going to talk about how the districts support the school level parent